Last year's track season went great, with the girls tying for first in states and boys coming in third. So we talked to Coach Warner to talk about expectations for this upcoming season.
The track team in the tradition of our track team is exceptionally rich. We have won a total of 7 team state titles in program history over the course of the past 20 years. We've also had runner-up team finishes on 8 different occasions. So we've actually been on the podium at state finals on 15 different occasions. Dating back for the past 6 years, I believe our girls have not lost a single track meet, and during the regular season in over 6 years. Our girls have not lost a track meet period, so including state finals dating back to 2019. So our girls track team our seniors on our girl track team have never lost a track meet.
Being a senior, you haven't lost a single track meet. Do you think you're going to keep this up through this year and be undefeated?
Yeah, in the 2019 season, we didn't lose a single meet, including the state championship. Unfortunately, in 2020, we didn't have a season because of COVID, but in 2021, we actually came back stronger and again kept up our winning streak, and we didn't lose any meets, again including the state championship. Just based on the first 2 weeks of practice, I think we're well on our way to keeping that streak up, and I think we're ready. I think we're going to do it again.
The boys obviously have an equally as rich tradition. Last year they took 3rd at state finals. In 2019 they took 2nd, only 1 point out from winning the whole thing. We returned quite a bit of talent and quite a bit of experience on both the boys and the girls. So in regards to the expectations this year, it's championship level expectations. We think that we can be going for a conference championship, a regional championship, and then eyeing a podium finish, hopefully at state finals. I can't speak on behalf of other teams, but what I would say is the level of work that we put in terms of, it meets my expectations for what I believe it takes to get at a championship level. Now, you know, it's interesting. I've been doing this a long time, and I've actually had varsity track coaches from other schools asked to come and watch us, and I have allowed them to do that. I have nothing to hide. If they want to come and watch us, they can. And we've had situations where other varsity track coaches have watched us and then walked away afterwards shocked at what a Puyallup-Westphalia track practice looks like. They're shocked by the intensity. They're shocked by the pace in which we move from one thing to another. They're shocked at the intensity that we have in the weight room. I can't speak to everyone. I don't want to make blanket statements towards any program, but I can tell you that our level of effort is probably on par with any of the top teams in the state.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Coach Warner, for insight on this year's season. On to our next story.
Okay, we're going to talk about 3 joints really quick. First one is a pocket hole joint. That's a joint like this. It's just a butt joint with holes drilled in at an angle, which is the pockets, and you put a screw into the pockets to hold everything together. That's a pretty simple joint. It's called a pocket hole joint. Next joint is a biscuit joint. This is the biscuit. You take the 2 boards and you cut these grooves in them so they line up. You put the biscuit in the groove, and when you glue it together, it helps hold it, keeps everything in line, and strengthens the joint. And the last joint is a dovetail joint. A dovetail joint is made up of pins and tails. They go together and they lock. They slide in one way but won't come apart the other way, so it's a locking joint. When you glue it up, it becomes a very strong joint. Plus it's decorative. Those are the 3 joints: pocket hole, dovetail, and biscuit.
Thank you, Mr. Kirker, for the insight on those 3 wood joints. Now we're on to Ethan with the Russian-Ukraine war.
The recent conflicts in Ukraine have been somewhat stuttering. Recently, Russia has been invading through 3 different points of Ukraine, through Crimea, up through to Kyiv, and straight through the middle. They've already captured 2 actually major cities. One down here, Donetsk, and they actually captured the nuclear power plant of Chernobyl, and currently are shelling another nuclear power plant that could also be worse than Chernobyl. Fortunately, though, for us, Ukraine has not fallen. They are standing strong, and they actually have been fighting back and almost turning a point. Another thing is Ukraine has been asking for U.S. help, not militarily, but economically. They have been asking for javelins, money. Even President Zelensky has been thanking Joe Biden, our president, President of the United States, for donating millions of dollars. But Russia, on the other hand, Russia has been asking China for military and economic aid because of the sanctions put on Russia. China has not declared it will take military or economic aid to Russia yet, but it is unknown certain that we will see it later in the years. Ukraine right now, how do you feel about this war?
Ooh, how do I feel about the war? Well, it's terrible. It just feels like it's a large country beating up on a smaller country. A lot of people are going to be hurt. A lot of people are going to be killed. And there's not much America is willing to do other than give some material aid, but we don't want to give troops because, well, they're nuclear power. And Ukraine's not a NATO member, so we have no allegiance to them. And we don't want to start World War III. So it's just a super unfortunate situation that America can pretty much only apply sanctions and maybe weapons to the Ukrainian side.
What is the purpose? What do you think the purpose is of this war? Like, why would this happen?
Yeah. Well, I think Putin's getting up there in age. He was a big fan of the Soviet Union, and I think he wants to reestablish other countries being part, not of the Russian Empire. I don't know if I want to say that, but he's very concerned about Russian security. So he wants, states like Belarus kind of aligned to him to try to keep NATO at bay. I think he's hoping that NATO would have been weakened over time, previous presidents, but now it doesn't look like NATO's really has been weakened. We see that with the response. They've been had a pretty united response in regards to this. So I think, overall, Putin's just worried about his legacy. He's 70 years old, and I think he just wants to be in the history books. So this is one way he can do it, is by trying to expand Russia's territory and influence in the world.
How do you feel about the Ukrainian farmers that are so-called stealing the tanks?
Ukrainian farmers stealing tanks, yes. I love it. All these stories from World War I and II that I've seen, and there's always these interesting little things that happen in it. Whether it be World War II with blow up tanks or something like that to fool people. Now we see, farmers using their tractors to move tanks around. These interesting little stories are happening, right now, and so it's fascinating to see these little stories in the context of a bigger conflict.
The only thing, China has not claimed Russian aggression, but they have not denied it either. They do know Russia invaded, but they do not deny that Russia has been killing civilians, which is a war crime.
Thank you, Ethan, for the insight on the Russian-Ukraine war. That's it for this episode of PDubTV.